Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cast and Spear podcast. My name is John. Today we have back on the show Eric Anderson. Today we are going to be covering what it's like to spearfish in Central California. We're going to cover every different spot, GPS court. No, we're just going to cover some hot spots that you should probably check out and the species to consider and how to catch them. Welcome back to the show, Eric.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to the talk.
I promise we're not going to spot burn, guys. It's just chatting about the structure of the water. So I've really never done any spearfishing up in Central Cal. If I wanted to come visit, what would I should consider?
At first, you'll want a 7 millimeter suit. Water's pretty cold. Typically, some spots, 47, 48, but typically around 52, 55 degrees. So 7 mil suit. Bring a couple guns, maybe a 70 or 80 centimeter gun, Rob Allen or whatever else, whatever you choose. And then have a shorter gun because you might be doing some hole hunting or some short structure shooting.
Okay, so that's gear wise, and then species that you'd be targeting. I know you mentioned offline that it's the lings, the cabs, some rockfish, some pelagics roll through from time to time. Do you mind doing like a high level of the species over there and what you like to target? What's good for eating and all that jazz?
Yeah, if you start like around the Mendocino area, everything's a little bit bigger the further north you go. So lingcod, cabezone, rockfish. My favorites are like blacks and blues, olive rockfish, vermilion. As you move down the coast and you get towards like Bodega Bay, that area, the water gets a little dirtier, but also known for big halibut and those things. And then as you move towards Monterey Bay and Santa Cruz, and then down to Monterey, you have the same species, but you start to see a mix a bit of some of the Southern California species. So Monterey will see sheephead. I've shot calico bass in Santa Cruz. And then, typically you want, a 7 millimeter suit. I have a couple guns for different scenarios. You'll likely not have very good visibility, so expect low vis and some dirty water. It's good to have a reel, but bring a float line. That's definitely beneficial and help you out. And then, when you start getting to the Monterey area, you can start seeing a whole mixed bag of different, bigger game species, white sea bass, bigger halibut, a lot of hole hunting with the lingcod and cabezone. And then as you move towards past Monterey and into the Big Sur area, that's where you can see some really, really cool structure, good visibility, have a good chance of finding some good vermilions, bigger rockfish and lingcod. But the structure changes throughout the coast. So up in Mendocino and in Monterey have very similar structure where you've got some big jagged, jutting rocks coming out. Depth goes from, very shallow to deep quickly. Whereas say like the San Simeon area or Santa Cruz is that continental shelf that goes out for a while. So most of your diving's in 30 to 40 feet, maybe 50 feet, siltier bottom. So you're not going to have as good visibility, but you still have a lot of good fishing opportunity there. So you had to start to understand the different structure, where these fish hang out, almost always in a kelp bed. So you'll be dealing with a lot of kelp. So, prepare for cold water, murky, kelpy, pea soup, and you should be good to go.
That's awesome. Now let's do a little deep dive on some of the species. So I've seen some cabezon, pretty decent size here, and they're like just sitting on a rock, right? Like they're not going to go anywhere. Is that kind of how you see yours, or are they in a hole, or how do they like to kind of chill?
Yeah, those fish they're not much of a challenge, but they're very good eating, and they're mostly hold up. But it's good to be mindful of the time of year. So with cabezon specifically, the males will guard the nests after the females lay the eggs. And so if it's like, say, October to March, and you do peek in a hole, and you see a good sized cabezon, maybe he's brown or red. I think the females typically don't have that reddish color. I think that's more of a male thing, or at least that's what I've seen. But if you look closely, they'll be guarding the eggs. Maybe leave that one alone. But then again, you can see them out and about. They're very camouflaged, so they like to kind of hide and tuck away. I think they're part of the sculpin family, so they're basically a giant, sculpin. Um, but they're very good eating based on the diet. So they have a heavy diet of crab, octopus, and abalone. And I don't see much of a fish eater as lingcod or the other toothfish. Cabezone have that kind of sandpaper teeth, and then that big kind of grinding pad in the back where they can crush up, crustaceans, mollusks, and stuff. But because of that, they're very good eating. They have huge heads, so you don't get as big of a fillet as some of the other fish, uh, but they're pretty awesome.
Sounds like it'd be perfect for some fish head soup, though, or some fish stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regarding the lingcod, is it kind of similar to the cabezon, or do they stay more in the holes? And what's their deal?
Mhm. It's interesting. Lingcod are a fish that I like to say has some character because they're almost individualized. I've never had a same pattern for a fish. So some spook easy, some you could go up and almost pet it like an iguana. Some are hold up. Some I've seen them out free swimming. Maybe they're moving from one area of structure to the other. But cabezon, lingcod, the females lay the eggs in the winter, and so when you see a big fish hold up, it's like that. Okay, I want this fish, but is it also a big female with a million eggs in its gut? I don't know. You take the shot. It is what it is, but I always take, I don't hesitate to take lingcod that I'll see in the summertime. But as you start to move into the winter, sometimes it's good to just pass up on a fish. But I don't always do that, and it's very difficult to do, especially if you've been diving for 4 hours and haven't seen anything yet.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of guys take the egg sac and dehydrate it for like a month, and apparently those eggs, when you grate it, taste like Parmesan cheese. So I mean, it's I understand the whole concept. Now I kind of want to touch base on this. I was talking to Brian, Uncle Erniehow, and he was kind of talking about a lot of guys don't know like the actual scientific backing of the species necessarily. So he's like, we should really be considering how many breeding cycles a fish has had a chance to do before you want to take it. So that kind of negates taking. I know it's certain size limits legal wise, but it's kind of nice to have some forethought into saying like for example, a calico needs to be, I'm just making this up here, but like 16 inches because then it's had like at least 3 breeding cycles. And then you don't want to take a one over 12 pounds or so because that right there is the mega breeder. So we should have like a range limit. I know that you said that you have some awareness in terms of like when to shoot a ling or a cab or whatnot. Do you have any off the top of your head, like high level, kind of like, hey guys, Central Cal, you should probably, this is probably a better range size fish to kind of consider versus legality wise or trophy fish?
Yeah, like for lingcod, they have to be 22 inches. So for a fish that's 25 to 30 inches, that's a good shooting fish. Good eating. But at the same time, to your point, how many times has that fish spawned to make it to 22 inches? How many times has it spawned to make it to 30 inches? I don't know. And then at the same argument, a fish that's 20 pounds has probably spawned 5 or 6 times and it's contributed back. And the other factors too is, is this a new spot and you're seeing a big ling? Is this your 10th time diving the same reef that year and you've already popped two and you're going to take a third now? So it's just, for me, when you start to learn an area and you understand the cycles and you see fish and in your mind, all right, I've already taken 3 cabezon off this reef in the last 8 months. I know 10 other guys are diving it too. Do I want to take another big fish? No, I'll try a different spot. But it's hard to pass on those big fish because they're so few and far between sometimes. It's not as if you see them every dive.
Yeah, the age old question, man. Because then it's like you can be um, cognizant for a diver, but then you can have a party boat roll through and clean house in one
Exactly.
day. So it's a tragedy of commons. Just whatever makes us feel better, I guess.
Yeah, whatever helps you sleep at night. For me, sometimes it keeps me up if I pass on that fish. So.
Yeah, the regret burns more than eating it. Um, is there anything else that a new diver who doesn't dive Central Cal should be aware of before they go up there?
Yeah, just watch the weather. It can change. On the north coast, it can get pretty nasty. Weather can move in pretty quick. Just be prepared to dive warmer than typical. Bring extra stuff, bring extra gloves. Think about what gun you want to use in different conditions. And it can change overnight, literally overnight. I have checked a spot and said, this sucks. It's going to be 6 foot of viz, and came back on the morning and it was 25 foot. And you go, holy crap. But I planned for 6 foot viz and I didn't bring extra guns. So I had to go back to my house and get a longer gun and all of that. So just, pack for multiple scenarios. That way you'll be set up for success. It's going to be cold. It's likely going to be dirty. You may be uncomfortable, but it's a new experience to enjoy.
And it'll make you a stronger person. No wussies.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
exactly.
Perfect. Well, guys, tomorrow we're going to be covering some shark stories because Eric has had some encounters with some whites. So we're going to talk about the red triangle and a whole bunch of other things. So chime in tomorrow. Hit up Eric at Eric_J Anderson on Instagram, and we'll see you tomorrow. Dive safe.